I'm Richard Lowe, the Writing King. I'm here with Scott Robertson for the Conversations with Influencers podcast, and we're going to talk with Scott about all kinds of things. So, Scott, tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I met in the entrepreneurship community,
Right.
and as you know, entrepreneurs really struggle with marketing. It's not completely their fault. My profession does a horrific job of educating people about what marketing is. Most people think marketing is advertising, or they think that it's sales, or they think it's everything about that, rather than what it really is, which is a process to build relationships and really tell a story that's all about them. So entrepreneurs really struggle with marketing. There's so much bad marketing out there. It is a plague. It is a mess. And I am hopefully one of the folks that's out there trying to make things better and fix it.
Well, I know that for a fact because I'm an entrepreneur and I've always struggled with marketing because I came from a tech background and that makes it even worse. Introverted, the whole thing. It's like, oh my God, I
Definitely.
have to sell, I have to market. What is, oh my God, why did I pick this career, And then slowly got through that wall and now I'm
Yeah.
at least able to do it. Not sure I do
Yeah.
it well, but people seem to know who I am. They know my brand, and it seems to work for the most part.
Yeah. Absolutely. Then you're doing the right things. I think marketing is much easier than people think it is. I think that, if you're marketing is about listening. It's about listening to the market. It's about giving the market something it's about giving customers something that they need to complete their hero story. And how that gets all twisted up is that companies are much more comfortable talking about themselves. And one of the most common problems that I solve, Richard, is I get the client out of its own message. I spend a lot of time really, I'm a StoryBrand certified guide, and I use the StoryBrand framework to really make the customer the hero of the story, and
Right.
not the brand the hero of the story. And I think once you do that, you're speaking the customer's language. You're inviting them into a story that they want to be in, that they're already in, and that they desperately need help getting to, that climactic scene where they win the day, get the girl, lose 20 pounds, whatever it is, boom, boom, boom. That success at the end is really, really important. And like I said, it's really important to them. So once you start speaking in that language, marketing becomes really easy because now you're just connecting people with stuff they already want.
Yeah, yeah. I my coach, Jim Carling, he uses the story brand and he taught it to me.
Great
And
framework.
yeah, it's a great framework. It works really well. And I'm just getting used to it now because what I did was this classic mistake everybody is. I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. This is what I do. And
Yes.
nobody cares unless they absolutely want that service and they know what they want. So what I've been pivoting towards is more of, and my friend Royce Blake, who's a copywriter, really helped me with this, is um, talk about the benefit first. What are they going to get from it? It's always about what are they going to get from it,
Absolutely true.
and it's not about
Absolutely
you.
true.
And then you go into other things, but you always start with,
Yeah.
you want to become a speaker, or
And
something
I
like
think
that.
where it gets confusing too, Richard, is there's this other message that comes from marketing that really appeals to a CEO's and a founder's vanity and personal vanity, and says, "Oh, the market's really interested in your origin story and your values and your mission and what do you stand for and what's your political stance and all this kind of thing." No one cares. Allow me to be the spoiler alert. I'm a 35-year marketer. No one cares about that, right? They don't even care about it a little bit. Oh, but Scott, all these surveys come back and say people really care. They're lying. I'm a marketer. People lie on surveys all the time. They lie their asses off all the time. It's absolutely true. And it's like you, as a marketer, you have to be smart enough to understand that people aren't in touch with the truth. The truth is they couldn't tell you the truth if they wanted to because they don't really understand why they buy things. It's much more emotional, it's much more psychological than most people give it credit for. And unless you study it, unless you dig deep, you won't become aware of why you buy things either. It's buried
Right.
within us. You have to go digging for it.
Yeah, I'm doing a declutter now, and I'm going through my house and what do I want to get rid of?
Mm.
And I'm pulling up something. Why on earth did I buy this? Even stuff that I bought 6 weeks ago. Yeah, it's like, well, eBay. It's So
You told
I
yourself a story. You told yourself a story, and that story was, I deserve this. I need this. Whatever that story ended up being. But like I said, if you ask people about that story, they don't know why they buy it
Of course
sometimes.
not. They've never even
Yeah.
thought about it. They saw it on a stand and it looked all glittery, and they said, "Oh, that's cool," and they bought it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's very interesting how
It's
that
fascinating.
works. I remember when I was at a different company, they did a one of those surveys that tells how engaged everybody is, and everybody answered it, and we got really low scores for engagement. So what we realized is we're wasting hours on this stupid survey. So the next year, when they said we want to see how good all of the programs were, everybody without fail answered it the way they wanted it to be answered. So what the manager got back was, oh, we had all these great improvements, and they stopped doing the survey, which is exactly what everybody wants. Like, just stop this nonsense and let's get back to work. And manager never
You
caught on.
You don't have to be in marketing very long to realize that surveys are extremely fallible because people don't tell you the truth. They don't tell you the truth. And like I said, oftentimes, Richard, it's not like they're sitting there twisting their evil mustache and saying, well, I'm going to lie on purpose. It's that they're not connected to the truth. They don't really understand what you're asking. And so if you really want to know, why people behave the why they behave, like I said, marketing is incredibly psychological. You have to go deep. You have to make a lot of educated guesses about stuff that you have no idea whether it's going to be true or not, depending on behavior. You can observe behavior and you can try to be predictive about it, but it's super, super important that companies have these conversations at the messaging
Right.
stage, at the strategic foundation of the stage. And you would be amazed at how many companies just jump to market and I ask them, I say, what emotion is your brand based on? And they can't answer me. And I go, okay, so there's 78 quantifiable emotional states that your brand could be based on. Which one is it based on? And then they can't answer that question. And then I say, so you don't understand what branding is. Because
Right.
branding is about transferring emotion. And if you don't
Right.
understand what emotion you're trying to transfer, what in the hell are you doing? Yeah, I mean, what is your plan? What is branding to you? And a lot of people say that branding is like the visual, they confuse the visual output of branding with branding itself. Graphic designers do this all the time. Oh, well, all the stuff that I create, that's the brand. Wrong answer. The brand is a decision about which emotion we're going to evoke and what emotion we're going to, a true north point for the compass where we're going to point everything towards. And if we do
Right.
things right, we can make everything evoke that emotion. Great brands are able to do that.
Right.
But if you don't understand what it is to start with, or you have a limited understanding of what it is to start with, then you're never going to get there. And you have to have these conversations at the beginning. People bring me in later and they say, "Why isn't marketing working?" I'm like, what emotion is your brand based on?" Can't answer me. Don't understand what brand is. Don't have a true north point. Don't have a controlling idea for the marketing. I look at the message, like you said, it's all about them. It's not about the customer. Another huge mistake. And the third mistake that I always correct, by the way, is people don't talk about failure enough.
Yeah.
In StoryBrand, we talk about failure. We lean in. Oh, Scott, I don't want to be too negative. I don't want to be too. Did you know that 89% of human thoughts are negative?
Of course.
Humans are wired. We come out of the womb crying, screaming. We're negative from day one, and we get worse. So it's like, as a marketer, you want to know that, and you want to know what drives behavior is failure, fear of
Right.
failure, fear of missing out, those kind of things. And like I said, when you study psychology for a bit, you understand that failure message is incredibly important to create behavior. And that's why you don't create these sunshine and roses websites that are like, oh, hey, this is a magical world of Oz where no one has any problems. And look, everyone's walking around and everyone's smiling. And everybody is, look at this perfectly multiculturally diverse group of people who are smiling and this kind of thing. It's like that isn't reality. And the brain knows it and it suspects that you, the marketer, are full of crap when you're doing that. And so it's super important that you get really real with this stuff at the very beginning. And I do messaging sessions and I work with clients and I get really, really real with stuff. I don't show up with a basket of cookies and sunshine and rainbows. It's like, I want to talk about the problems that customers are having. I want to talk about their fear. I want to talk about what it looks like if they fail. And I want to talk about what it looks like if they succeed. And by
Right.
doing that, we're telling a great story, Richard. That's how we tell good stories right there.
One of my favorite books is The Other Guy Blinked, and he's by the CEO of Pepsi from, this was probably in the 90s he wrote it. And he talks about the new Coke and how Pepsi took advantage of that. And it's a fascinating story and everything you just talked about, how Pepsi was
Hmm.
in tune with what people wanted and Coke wasn't. And
Yeah,
it just
listen.
it's one of the best books I've ever read on marketing. It really changed my mind on things.
Yeah.
And it's a quick read. It's hard to find because it's way out of print, but I would recommend it to anybody who wants to market something. Read that book. Because this was the Michael Jackson era when they hired Michael Jackson to do stuff.
Yeah.
It was really good. And
You know,
the whole thing's a story. Go ahead.
I love it. There's lots of, I mean, marketing is a mess today. It's a mess, and it's a mess for reasons that are entirely preventable, which is there's no strategy to it, right? I mean, all these marketing firms that are out there selling tactics, they need to push things up a little bit and say, look, and then you realize to say, look, I may get a check for my Google search ranking business, or I may get a check for my Facebook ad business, but that doesn't help the business live.
Right.
29% of businesses are going to survive. And it's like that should not be acceptable to us as people who work with small businesses. We've got to get those numbers up and we've got to, and the marketing profession needs to step up and take ownership for the marketing function of the business, not just a stupid tactic of not just one arrow in the quiver, but who is going to own the entire function and the strategy, the marketing strategy for the business. If we start to do that, we can do better for their customers. We can do better for their businesses, and we can get that 29% number to be much, much higher. I hate
Right.
that number. Yeah,
Right. I don't want to get into this in any detail, but the new Jaguar commercial, the thing that struck me is part of the way through it, they have this person who's not smiling with the sledgehammer. And I was thinking, how does that motivate me to buy a car? The sledgehammer's hostile, and I'm not going to
bad.
buy this car because of that. I mean, all the other stuff is
Yeah,
irrelevant. It's just, I just looked at that sledgehammer and thought, they just failed right there. That didn't
yeah,
do anything
yeah.
for me.
Didn't. No, and here you have this. One thing I said on LinkedIn about this, it's really important. They didn't have to do any of that. There's this thing in branding called brand equity, and it's all the money and resources you've invested in building your brand. And Jaguar has hundreds of millions of dollars in brand equity. I mean, this is the car that James Bond prefers.
I
This
know.
is James Bond's car, and it's like nobody has brand equity like that. And then they throw it all away based on the idea that they want to be experimental and they want to kind of go show that they're next gen. What you should do in that case, in my opinion, is you create a sub brand like Jaguar Next or Jaguar
Exactly.
something. You create a sub brand. You do all your experimental stuff with the pink cars and the freaky ads and everything else under the sub brand and say, hey, we're trying to be with the times or whatever. Whatever. But you protect and preserve the brand equity of the 100 something year old iconic logo and imagery of the Jaguar brand. You cherish that and protect that brand equity. I mean, you've gotten the market to memorize who you are, which is one of the hardest things to do. And then you throw it all away because some stupid CEO has an ego trip and wants to take the company in a new direction. What an idiot. What an absolute egocentric idiot to do something like that. Ridiculous.
Yes.
Completely
Yes.
irresponsible.
Well, that's about what I thought. That's very interesting. We're coming up on the end of time here, so
Yeah,
thank you for being on the Conversations with Influencers podcast.
super
Uh,
fun. Thank you.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I'm glad I met you. I'm glad you got to talk about it. How do people reach you?
Yeah, sure. My website is robertsoncom with two M's, like communications.com. Just go to robertsoncom. You can book time with me there. I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona. I can be found on X at robertsoncom, and I'm also on LinkedIn talking about quite a lot of things under my own name, Scott Robertson. So yeah, hopefully your folks will reach out, and if anybody has marketing questions or they need help in this crazy little thing we call marketing, I'm a resource for that. And I want to see businesses, I want to see small businesses and entrepreneurs in particular succeed and not be part of that 70% of businesses who don't make it and fail because, and I certainly don't want it to be because of marketing. So hopefully I can help.